If you're already subscribed, welcome back, my darling. And if you have not yet subscribed, please do subscribe and join a part of our family and our community over here on YouTube. And while you're down there subscribing, because I have faith that you will, also be sure that you do turn your notification bell on for all notifications and become a part of the Morgan Shay Notify. Gang. So today, just to get the elephant out of the room, no, I did not upload the My Thoughts on Onision video. You guys requested me do Onision. I ran a poll on Instagram after you guys had requested me do him here in a live on YouTube. You guys asked for him, so I ran a poll on Twitter between him and Tana, and you guys chose him. And after that, I just don't feel like I know enough about him, so I'm going to take some more time, do a little bit more research on Onision. So this week, we are going to be skipping the My Thoughts on video, and I'm so sorry if you were looking forward to it. I love you guys. Know it is coming. It will be in the future. I'm just going to do a little bit more research on him before I feel comfortable, like, giving my full-on thoughts. Obviously, I think he's scum, but also I'm just going to do a little bit more research before I do the video. So we're going to go way back in time, okay? We're going to go back to the year that I graduated high school. And as you guys know, if you've watched my story times and you followed along with me, then you guys know that I got married straight up out of high school. Oh, yes. I went through a horrible breakup with my first love, and he went straight into a relationship and like fell hardcore in love with this girl, and I was crushed. And so I fell into the arms of like the first available suspect, really, you know, victim in all of this, and I married him. So as I've told you guys also, you know, I was 18 years old when we got married. And we were married very briefly. We were not married very long. We weren't married even a year, to put it that way. And right out of that marriage, I had just turned 19 years old, and I end up getting this roommate. It's one of my horrible roommates, and this is before I even knew she was horrible. Like, we had literally just moved in with one another, and she invited me to a party. Now, keep in mind, I don't know any of these people. I don't know the people that she went to school with. I didn't grow up in that county. I don't know anybody. I had been to parties up there, but I didn't know people. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to this party completely blindfolded, basically. So I ask if I can invite a friend, and she's like, yeah, duh. So I call up one of my friends, and in this video, we are going to call her Alex. So I call up my friend Alex, and I'm like, Alex, my horrible roommate has invited me to this party, which we're just going to call her horrible roommate in this video. Horrible roommate has invited me to a party. You know, it's in her town. It's with her people. I don't know anybody. Please come with me. And Alex was like, duh, of course. So after work that day, everybody comes over at my apartment. It's me, Alex, horrible roommate, and her friend who's irrelevant. So we're all getting ready, and all of a sudden, horrible roommate busts into my bedroom door. Me and Alex are sitting on the bed. I can't remember what I was doing, but I remember vividly that Alex was curling her hair with a curling iron, and when horrible roommate busted open the door, like, Alex burnt the top of her ear. I remember that vividly because that, like, started off the night for Alex. So that's where she started off. She started off pissed, like, already. So she busts in the room and she's like, oh my gosh, guys, there is going to be these boys there. There's going to be like 6 boys. They're all super duper hot. I showed them pictures of you both, so you guys be ready. Keep in mind that my friend Alex was in a relationship, okay? And like, this relationship was pretty new, but Alex was into him, okay? We head up to the party. I drive. We get there. It took us about an hour and a half to get there. Me and Alex, neither one of us are familiar with this town. Of course, we had both been to this town, but like, we weren't familiar with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, there may be towns that you like drive through or whatever, but you don't know the town. It was that, okay? Like, you might pass this town on the interstate or something, but like, you don't go to this town. You don't drive the back roads of this town. You know what I'm saying? You don't know Earl that works at the gas station that sells minor cigarettes. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't know this town. So we get off of the exit and my gas light cuts on. And I say, okay, I need to stop and get gas. And horrible roommate pops up immediately and she's like, no. Let's just go on to the party, and after the party, we'll stop and get gas. And I look at her in the rearview mirror and I say,
horrible roommate, is this gas station open late? Because who knows when we'll be leaving this party.
And she said,
oh, if it's that late, we'll just stay up here.
And I was like, okay, cool. So we get to the party, and of course, you know, we think that there's going to be alcohol involved and all of these things. So I make a deal with them before we even get out of the car. I'm like, look, if we drink, any of us, we're stuck here. Like, we're not leaving, like we're stuck here. And everybody's like, okay. So we're ready to party, right? And just as a disclaimer, I do not condone underage drinking. It's absolutely stupid. It's very dangerous, and you never know what could happen. So please be safe and wait until you're the legal age wherever you are. So we get out of the car, we're excited, we're pumped, whatever. We're all dressed up to the nines, and we walk up to the front door and it's wide open. So we just walk on into the house. Everybody's in the backyard. You can see when you pulled up in the driveway that there's a bonfire going on, which is typical here in East Tennessee. So a lot of my story times include bonfires because that's typically what we do, is have a bonfire and have some beers. That's just what it is around here. So we walk back there, and immediately the first guy that starts to speak is like 2 feet shorter than I am. Okay, which is like not my type, you know. And I just, because I am 5'9", I'm tall, so I immediately like cling to taller guys. Chris is 6 foot tall, so I just immediately am attracted to a taller man. That's just my vibe. And horrible roommate whispers in Alex's ear, which then Alex repeats to me, oh, this is your guy. I went like, and Alex was like, I'm scared because she was scared of who a horrible roommate had set her up with. So he proceeds to tell us, this guy, the short guy, walks up to us. He says, we couldn't get any alcohol, so we're just gonna hang around and play music and just chill. And we're like, oh, this is gonna be horrible because now I'm gonna be hanging out with this guy that I am already not attracted to. Not to mention his breath stank. It smelled like chewing tobacco. And I don't know, I was in this space at this point of only entertaining my first love. Like, that was all. He could have probably literally been Jason Aldean, which is like, to me. And I probably would have been like, ooh. That's just where I was in the head. Hold please, I need some gloss. I've been living and breathing for this Revlon gloss. It's so good, not sticky. So we sat down and we're sitting in these lawn chairs. Now, Alex has now been introduced to her guy. And y'all, to this day, me and Alex will make jokes about Frogger. So they called this guy Frogger. And the reason they called him this is because his eyes like bulged out over his nose and he looked like a frog. So that was his nickname in high school, and carrying on, I assume they call him Frogger. So Alex was not into it. Like I said, she was already in a new relationship. Like, they weren't, she said at this point they weren't like exclusive, but like Alex wanted it to be. So she was not into it at all. So me and Alex are basically just sitting there like dying, like we're ready to go. And all of a sudden, the guy whose house we're at, which is horrible roommate's house, like it's her guy's house, he comes out and he's like, hey, I got some pot. Do y'all want to smoke? I'm like, whatever, man. Might as well do something because this is boring as hell. So we decide to smoke. We smoke a little bit, we hang out, whatever. Horrible roommate and her guy get into a huge fight. It's so awkward. I don't even know like, we don't even know, like, what they're arguing about at this point. At this point, it's me, Alex, Frogger, and Chewing Tobacco Guy, my guy. And we're standing over to the side, and Chewing Tobacco Guy is showing me his Harley. He bought a Harley. So he's showing me his Harley. All of a sudden, you can hear Horrible Roommate and the guy that owns this property arguing. And it's also important that I say that the guy that she was hanging out with was like 40 years old. Everybody else there was like 19, 20. That's also important to the story. So he ends up kicking everybody out. He ends up telling everybody to leave. Us, the other guys that are there. And apparently, I guess one of the guys was like his adoptive son or something. I don't know the whole story, but he becomes relevant in a later story time coming soon. But yeah. Anyways, so we leave. Remember, my gas light was on. By this point, it's about 1:30 in the morning. The only gas station off of this exit was the one that we passed coming. That's why I repeated to Horrible Roommate, like, are you sure, bitch? Because my gas light's on. I didn't know how long it had been on, and in this car, this was my punishment car that, if you know me and you know my story, my nanny gave me a punishment card because I was a spoiled brat. It wasn't like my Kia I had, my brand new off the showroom floor Kia that I had before that I totaled, where it told me, you know, you have 13 miles till empty, like till you're out of gas and you're walking, bitch. Like, it wasn't like that. It was an old ass Chevrolet Lumina. So, and there's a lot of exits like that here in East Tennessee. You know, there's a lot of really small towns. And in these small towns, typically you go miles and miles and miles and miles before you come to a gas station. That's how those little piss-ass towns are. So you know where this is going, right? We get up through there and see that the gas station is closed. And I'm like, Horrible Roommate, if we get on the interstate, it's like at least 25 miles to the nearest gas station. I don't know how long we've got till we run out of gas, and I really don't want to run out of gas on the interstate after, you know, we had smoked pot probably 2 hours before this. I was still a little high, and Alex was, I would say, a little high, but they were stoned in the back seat. Horrible Roommate and her pal, oh, they're bonkers back there. So I'm like, I don't want to get on the interstate. It's pitch dark, you know, and I don't want to be pulled over on the side of the highway, on the interstate even. You know, I-75, if you know where that's at, that's where we were. I don't want to be on the interstate, pitch dark, out of gas. The fuck? I don't want to do that. That doesn't sound like a fun thing to do. So I talk Horrible Roommate into calling 40-year-old dude and having him bring a gas can or something, or letting us something, like, help us here. She calls him and he basically tells us to fuck off. So I'm like, okay, so what do we do now? Because I just don't want to get on the interstate. So I call my first boyfriend, my first love, and he's so confused, and I'm like, look, I don't know what to do. I'm scared to get on the interstate. Do you think I should just go and just try? What should I do? Da da da. He's like, just try. I'm like, okay, cool. So we get on the interstate, we start driving. Things are going good. The two in the back seat fall asleep. All of a sudden, we come up on a wreck. And you can see the tail lights up ahead. And I look over at Alex and she looks at me. And I'm like, we're gonna run out of gas. And she said, yep. So I get on the phone and I call my poor pitiful nanny. God, love that woman. And I say, Nanny, I'm about out of gas. And it just so happened that the exit that we were gonna come up on was like 2 exits before the exit she lived off of. So I let her know where I'm at. I let her know that there's a horrible accident and that I'm gonna run out of gas, more than likely. And so she said, okay, honey, if you run out of gas, just get over to the side of the road. And I'm like, oh my God, because I had never been through this. I was like, am I just going to stop where I'm at, or what's going to happen? And she was like, no, you'll start to feel it start to putter. Just go over to the side of the road. She said, just be sure that you're driving all the way in the farthest right-hand lane. That way you can just kind of scooch over. I'm like, okay, cool. And she was like, and when you run out of gas, you call AAA and you call me. And I was like, okay. So, and she said, you just have them bring it here. We'll take those girls home tomorrow. We'll get y'all home tomorrow. I'm like, okay. So we're sitting in this damn traffic jam. I'm freaking out. I'm pissed off because I have to call my nanny. And I'm mad at horrible roommate. And I'm mad at myself because I should have just stopped and got gas, is what I should have done. I shouldn't have listened to horrible roommate. But again, at this point, I didn't know her to the extent that I know now, or even towards the middle to the end of our roommate situation. And if it had been maybe even a couple of more months past this point, I would have stopped and got gas without even any hesitation, because that's just how she was. She would tell you whatever she had to tell you to get her way. And oh, do I have the story times for you guys with her. Like, I have so many, it's crazy. So long story short, we end up not running out of gas. We end up making it to my nanny's exit. We get gas, we go to her house, we go to bed, whatever. After we had woke up from the night before, me and my horrible roommate had a heart-to-heart conversation, and you know, I said, just please do not ever put us in that type of situation again. If you're not sure if a gas station's open 24 hours, don't tell me, you know, oh, I know, I'm from here, it's open 24 hours, because we could have been we were put in a very shitty situation. So the next morning, me and my nanny were supposed to go and get me a new car. So the girls ended up staying at the lake and hanging out, and me and my nanny went and got a car. And when we got back, Alex walks up to me and says, bitch, I'm not going. And I said, what are you talking about? And she said, your horrible roommate is about to come up here and ask you if you want to go hang out at that house that we were at last night. I don't want to go. I said, bitch, I don't want to go either. So she comes up to me, and sure enough, she asked me if we want to go hang out. And I said, no. And she was like, well, can you give me a ride? And, you know, I had just got my new car, so I was down to drive anybody anywhere. So she wanted to be dropped off at that gas station. And I was like, okay, cool. Which was kind of shitty now looking back. Like, bitch, you couldn't have just come and picked her up. Like, we were like 30, 45 minutes from your house at my grandmother's. So I go drop her off, and me and Alex, we head back. We end up seeing a movie with the guy I was talking to at the time and her now husband. And we are in the movie theater. I will never, ever, 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 ever forget it. We're watching Twilight, one of the Twilight movies. We're sitting there and we're watching one of the Twilight movies, and I'm into it, bitch. And all of a sudden my phone starts going off. It starts vibrating. And I look at my phone and I look at Alex, and I'm like, it's horrible roommate. And she said, we're not leaving. And I said, hell no, I ain't leaving. Twilight's on. So we end up leaving the movie, and we walk over to Cheesecake Factory. We get sat down at Cheesecake Factory, and my phone goes off again. I answer it, and I'm like, hey, I've been in a movie. And she's like bawling, I need you to come get me. I'm like, what's going on? And she was like, he hit me. And I'm like, what? And like, she was like hard to understand, but I could understand that she said he hit me. And so I'm getting ready to like go get her, because I'm not going to leave her up there to be like hit on by a man. You know what I'm saying? And all of a sudden her friend grabs the phone, and she was like, no, she has not been hit. She's high. And when she gets high, she gets crazy basically. And that's the verbiage her friend used, was crazy. And I was like, oh, okay, well, what, are you all good? And she said, yeah, she's good. She just needs a minute. And I was like, okay. So we get to eating whatever, hanging out. I would say probably 5 minutes before we're about to pull into the apartment garage, I get another phone call. And I answer the phone, and I'm like, hello. And it's horrible roommate, and she's begging me to come get her. And I said, look, I am not driving an hour and a half to come get you just because you're high and you're pitching a fit. I'm not doing it. If he wants to bring you home, that's fine. Or if you want to find a ride. And see, here is the thing that horrible roommate would continuously do over and over and over and over, is that if she didn't get her way, she would lie to you and make you feel like, you know, you were reliable for her, if that makes sense. So if, for instance, in this situation, I told her no, and so she told me, okay, well, if I end up sleeping on the street, then that can be on your conscience. So here we go, packing up in the guy that I was on a date with this night. We end up packing into his truck, SUV, whatever. And it's me, Alex, him, Alex's boyfriend, and we're driving an hour and a half to go pick up horrible roommate and her friend.
Bitches, do you want to know what happened? Do you want to know what happened?
Mind you all, I had to call horrible roommate before we arrived up to pulling into the driveway, because horrible roommate wasn't with me and I didn't know this area, so I was kind of confused with like the back roads and stuff. Again, East Tennessee probs. And so nothing was wrong at this point. Like, she just wanted to leave. She said that the guy was making her feel uncomfortable, whatever. So I went and got her. We get there, and him and a guy, like a 19-year-old boy, are fighting physically in the front yard. And about this time, we get out of the SUV. The neighbors across the street are standing in the road, and we're like, what's going on? Horrible roommate's nowhere to be found, by the way. Nowhere to be found. And mind you all, I just got off the phone with her, okay? She gave me directions to this place. And the neighbors are like, oh, some girl just left, and I guess she slept with that guy, and he's beating him up because he liked her, or blah, whatever. The police are on the way. We called the law. I'm like, what? She left? I just got off the phone with her. Are you sure? So now at this point in my head, I'm thinking, is he holding her captive in there? So I'm waiting for the police because I do not believe that she's gone. I'll call her phone twice. She doesn't answer. It goes like straight to voicemail. I'm like, what the hell? So the guy that I'm seeing at the time, he's like, what the fuck? Did she leave? And I'm like, no, there's no way that she left. She has to be like locked in there. Like, she has to be like, he has to be holding her captive. There's no way that she would literally give me directions here like 3 minutes before we showed up. And he's like, there's no way. Yeah, the police show up. They get them two torn apart. And she left. She had another friend from the area come pick her up. Y'all, she beat me home. By the time I got home, she was already there with her friend and the other friend from the area that gave her a ride. And this was like one of those first like full-on times that I was pissed. I was like, what the fuck? You had me drive an hour and a half. You gave me directions to the place and you had already left? She was like, well, I didn't think it was a big deal. I said, yeah, it's a big deal. And that was the problem. She was so selfish. Oh my God, it makes me so goddamn mad even thinking about it to this day. So yeah, just be careful before you move in with people. That's all I'm saying. You know, get to know them, be friends with them outside of a living situation before you move your shit in. And even in some cases, that don't even do a fucking thing. But yeah, you guys, that is, I don't even know how I'm going to title this story time, but there's another story from the Horrible Roommate Chronicles of my life. I hope you guys did enjoy it and get a laugh or two on my expense. Also, be sure that you do subscribe before you leave and turn on all your notifications and join a part of the Morgan, Shay, and Notify a gang, like these lovely babies up here. Also, do be sure that you do go down into the description box and follow me on all social media. If you send me a friend request on Facebook, by the way, I will accept it. I'm extremely active on TikTok right now, and any platform that's linked below, I'm active on. And yeah, you guys, I hope you all did enjoy this video. And until next time, bye.